Hi, welcome everyone to Virtually Incorrect. I am Gunter, your host tonight, and for those new, Virtually Incorrect is a weekly panel discussion show about virtual reality in virtual reality. Topics that are interesting to the VR community will be semi-seriously discussed with the panel each week, with nothing off limits and nothing censored. Before we introduce our guests, I want to thank the fantastic RiffMax crew for producing and editing the show, as well as my amazing guests, the folks in the RiffMax audience, and everyone watching via the Hitbox stream or YouTube. I also want to give a shout out to my friend Holotape in the audience tonight. He helped me gather stories and topics this week, so it's been a huge help. Thanks, man. And we have a great panel of VR developers, personalities, and enthusiasts here with us tonight. So let's go ahead and meet them. On my right, I've got McNeil, developer of Darknet, winner of the 2003 VR Game Jam. How's it going?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
And on my right as well, filling in for, I hope I'm saying his name right, Akrima, who is one of the developers with Kite and Lightning. Unfortunately, he had some difficulties getting him in the theater tonight, but we'll have him on a show in the future. So filling in for him is DeepRifter, a VR enthusiast and a karaoke aficionado, and that's karaoke in RiffMax. So thanks for joining, DeepRifter.
Thanks, Gunter. Shout out to the boys in Salt Lake City. Yeah.
Salt Lake.
That's right. SLC. All right. We also have here on the left Flake, VR enthusiast and YouTuber with the virtual reality Guinea Pig channel. Thanks, Flake.
What's up, Gunter? Thanks. What's up?
Thank you. And finally, we have JakeintheMargin, computer science student at the University of Newcastle, Australia. Jake's research includes robotics and AI. Welcome, Jake. And before we kick off the first story, I want to announce a Hitbox poll for the show. The question is, if Samsung came out with an Android-based HMD, would you buy it? And we'll share the results at the end of the show. So it's now time to dive into the VR discussion portion. Panelists, are you ready?
Yep.
Excellent. So the first story is the future of Oculus. And this is posted by Tim Kochiki 111. And in his post, he asks subreddit what they saw for the future of Oculus. And he also said at the rate of Oculus is going, they will perfect the ordinary HMD in a few years, especially with the deep pockets of Facebook. So his question is, what will they do next? Where do you see Oculus and VR in the next 5 years, 25 years? I want to go ahead and start it off with DeepRifter.
Well, I want to answer what you were saying about Oculus. Where are they going to be down the road? I want to see Oculus. You know, these are the guys that are going to give the stamp of approval, always pushing the edge, taking it to the next level. That's what I want to see Oculus always doing, you know, helping people out here and there. You know, you've got Samsung on board now, working with Oculus. I want to see these guys as always cutting the edge. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get the opinion from Flake.
Well, I mean, it's easy to push the edge when you see the acquisitions that they're making. I mean, every other day you see another, absolutely, like the best minds. They're just assembling the most killer team that, I mean, it's sky's the limit with this crew.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. What are your thoughts on this?
So I've read some research that suggests that people they tend to overestimate the change that'll happen in 1 year and underestimate the change that'll happen in 10 years. And I don't think that's easy to correct for. I think it's almost unimaginable where things are going to be 10 years from now. But in the near future, I think things are going to be, you know, pretty much what we expect them to be. Oculus is going to come out with a great, you know, head-mounted display, and things are going to stay there for a while. There's going to be interesting research done in things like you know, locomotion and motion controls and things like that. But I think what's safe to be excited about is the Oculus Rift as it is being sold to us now.
That's a great answer. Jake, what do you think? You agree with that?
Yeah, totally. Everybody pretty much summed it up. The future is pretty bright for Oculus. I think in particular, I'm particularly excited about Facebook because while people are skeptical, I think the normalization there, but also the ability to bring everybody together and make it like this, where people interact socially through the Oculus, is what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's basically community. Oculus really has this great, community kicking, which is why we are all here right now. And my favorite part has absolutely been the VR social side of things. Just want to read another comment. This is by Everyday VR. He lists a few things. He said, 5-20 years, huh? Well, here's my wild speculation. Miniaturization of true accommodation using light field displays, fast, precise eye tracking for input and foveated rendering, ability to run as a high-performance, portable, self-contained system, and VR input starting with hand and finger tracking and eventually branching out into full-body tracking that can reproduce your complete pose, including face and fingers in VR. This put together with scanned avatars will enable lifelike VR social interactions. So that plays into exactly right what we're talking about with this social stuff. Who wants to chime in on Everyday's comment?
I'll take this one. So I saw a talk by Michael Abrash in which he was discussing positional tracking on the DK2. Abrash was talking about doing the Valve demo, and they were trying out a multiplayer test for something like this. And he discussed how when somebody else was putting on the Rift, you could sort of see it rise into the air and float around weirdly for a second, and then all of a sudden it was a person. You can tell that it's a human being underneath. Like there's also like demonstrations where they just show motion capture points, and they're just a set of floating dots on a screen. But if it's moving, you can tell that it's meant to be a human being, and it seems astonishingly lifelike, even if the graphics are terrible.
That's really interesting, and I can totally just even imagine that and be like, yeah, that makes sense. If you see dots moving, like humans, that's totally gonna make me think like that. There's nothing that seems to be able to replicate that. And that makes me think of Doc Ock's video where he was using the 3 Kinects, and he was able to bring in his own body and even that chair into the scene. And it was really crude, of course, very jaggedy and missing parts, but you could basically get the idea, and it was that fluid movement of the body mattered more than like the high definition of what you looked like, the rendering of yourself. So, interesting. Any other thoughts on this topic?
Well, just following that comment, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we all recognize that moment, even in this theater. I mean, for karaoke night or whatever, somebody gets in, spins around a couple times trying to get their riff on, and all of a sudden, you know that there's somebody on the other side of it, and it's just such a remarkable, powerful moment. And it's funny, even experiences like getting on for karaoke night. There's moments where you're about to sing a song and you're absolutely nervous. It's so real. It's so special. It's very, very cool.
I mean, obviously, I could, attest to that, and we all could right now. I mean, right now there's a show going on. There's people watching, whether they're watching live or they're in this audience or again on YouTube. So, when I'm prepping or this last hour before the show, I'm cramming everything in and kind of getting nervous and psyching myself up. So, I mean, this VR social stuff is very real, and it's definitely allowed me to step outside my boundaries. Other thoughts? DeepRifter.
Yeah, I think relatively soon, once we really get the whole motion capture down, if I were to meet, for example, one of you guys in real life after hanging out with your avatar, even though your avatar doesn't look like you, I think I might be able to identify you just based on your body motions and your character that way,
Huh. It's very interesting. I never thought of it, but going off E's, comment there, that could be completely, possible. Of course, we might recognize each other's, voices and whatnot, and that did happen at SVBR, last weekend. We had a bunch of our friends and other guests that had been on the show that met up, and sometimes, people would just be hearing their name or hearing their voice and be like, oh, aren't you Rev, or aren't you so-and-so? And, but wouldn't it be interesting to recognize somebody from their, your body language, or as we of course get more high definition in our in our avatars here in our expression, that I think will definitely become the case. Interesting.
You'd be able to recognize me because I'd be shooting laser pointers at everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Jake,
could
any
chime in.
thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there'll be another moment of realization once there's realistic eye tracking as well. I feel like that's a massive part of this entire expressive suite. And once that eye tracking's there, there'll be another realization on the same level that, wow, that's a person. And it feels completely real. And eye tracking will have a very strong impact on that.
Well, another thing that was talked about, I think by Abrash in that same talk, is that they can fake eye tracking. So even if they're not actually tracking your eye, if they make your avatar, look at the eyes of whoever you're staring at, on the receiving end, that still feels very lifelike, even if it's not, actually accurate.
Interesting.
Obviously, I would love to see eye tracking, of course, being able to, anything that furthers the benefit of this show and what we're able to do and how we're able to communicate. So I know that High Fidelity was demonstrating this sort of situation at SBVR and other places. And what was, is the puzzle still, though, is, how they're going to actually do that when somebody has an HMD on their head. But I definitely liked what I saw when it was not an HMD, and just really cool how, it was reading the face and communicating that information. That's definitely something that I'm interested in want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to dive deeper into our guests' background and ask some questions, and we'll kind of do basically a couple stories, talk to a guest, couple stories, talk to guests, that sort of format. So first up is E. McNeil, who created Cease when it was known back in the VR Jam, and is now Darknet. Really awesome game, and I love it. If you could just go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, just a general introduction, that'd be great.
Sure. I'm an indie developer. I'm working solo out of my home apartment in San Diego, and I've been doing this for a little over a year and a half now. Darknet is by far the largest game that I've ever worked on. The plan is to release it as a Oculus Rift launch title, whenever that may be.
Excellent. Right on. And we're keenly watching, the Darknet dev blogs and wondering how things are coming along with the game and whatnot.
Things are, it's being built pretty quickly. I'd say there are still some things that I'm wrestling with, and that's a good thing. Like there are some core systems that I really wished were sort of locked down, but I ultimately decided needed more attention. So like this past couple of weeks, I've been kind of ripping out the wires and building something new. And so, it's kind of like I'm making great progress, but the goalposts kind of keep moving. I'm trying to deliver something that I can really be proud of and that will provide like a really great early foundational experience in VR. And that can be tough to pull off as one guy.
Yeah, exactly. Indie developers got definitely a mountain to climb here. And that's going to sort of tie into our next topics. But before we go into those, I wanted to ask you, do you feel that in the future, haptic gloves and full body tracking will be a place for games controlled by head movement?
Well, speaking as somebody who's playing around with some motion controls right now, I think that they're very cool, and there are definitely going to be some places where they are better than not having them. But I think overall I'm cooler than most VR enthusiasts on the idea. Like it's definitely going to be something that progresses, but I think it's sort of like that thing I was talking about earlier, where people tend to overestimate the change that'll happen in the near future. I think it's so far away from the level of quality that we're getting in the head-mounted displays that we should be seeing it as an unsolved problem. Like the current state of motion controls is analogous to maybe where VR was, in the 90s when that kind of caved in. maybe not so drastic, but it's got a long way to go, and it'll have its moment, but further in the future than people imagine.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that it's always going to take longer than you think it is, especially in software. Software's hard, and so goalposts being realigned. It's part of it's part of agile development, and you just need to do those things so you can get that quality product. So one last question: what's next for you once Darknet's finished? Any plans?
No plans yet. Darknet is probably not going to be finished for a very long time. Um, I don't know when it's going to be, to need to be done. It's whenever the Oculus Rift comes out. But if that turns out to be earlier than I expect, then I'm going to keep on developing it until, and adding features after release. And there, it's going to depend on how the reception is, but it's going to be occupying my time for long enough that I haven't spared any thought for what comes after.
Kind of thought maybe you would say that, but definitely wanted to ask that question. So thanks for answering those questions. That was great. Next topic is Oculus collaborating with Samsung. This is posted by Frogloggers. Engadget reported that Oculus and Samsung are working together on a media-focused HMD. Is mobile VR something that you would consider being developed right now? And Philly Pro has a comment on this thread. Oculus gives Samsung early access to its mobile software development kit and helps develop user interface software, while Samsung gives Oculus early access to its next-gen OLED screens. Holy shit, but perfect plan. What do you guys think about this? E?
I mean, it sounds like a sort of win-win to me. Once you have a computer with a good screen on it, which is, say, a phone, why not just attach the tracking? And, that hopefully would be cheaper than a full HMD and computer. It seems like a good wireless solution, as long as you can get the, the software running well enough on it.
What about you, DeepRifter?
I think it's awesome. I mean, I want a device that I can take on a plane and strap in and watch a movie. I want the multimedia, the whole media experience in virtual reality, and it's not always needing to be connected to the computer. Computers for the hardcore immersion, gaming, pushing it to the edge, but I'm digging this, man. I was kind of, I was blown away first when I heard Samsung announce that, hey, we're releasing a VR2. I'm like, holy crap! If we weren't already over the tipping point already, now we definitely are. VR is going to happen, and then to find out that this is going on with Oculus and Samsung, that is amazing. I mean, we're in amazing time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great to see these people collaborating for sure. And I wonder, I mean, are we going to be able to get much more customized HMDs? The mobile stuff I'm a big fan of. I'd like to have these mobile meetups and whatnot. But are we going to be able to get these curved screens or something? Is that what this might, suggest? What do you think, Jake?
So we should remember that Oculus owes its success to the mobile phone industry. So it's great to see that the mobile phone industry is realizing this is where the next technological sector is going to be. And so it's really exciting to see that sort of take off.
Yeah, it's like a symbiotic relationship. Very interesting. And even stuff like, we talk about predicting the future before and how we're going to be able to see these things 10, 25 years down the line. It obviously took stuff like the mobile phone industry and even Kickstarter to have emerged before we really could get to this virtual reality state that we're in. So yeah, it's interesting how everything's interconnected like that. Flake, your thoughts?
At this stage, and of course it's a very early stage in the game, I'm a bit of a junkie for all things VR, to be totally honest. So, I absolutely want Samsung, I absolutely want Sony, I want it all. And who knows, at the end of the day, many will come, many will go, and we hope there'll be some strong stuff standing. But for now, I want to consume it all, and I'm stoked that there's going to be more competition, and it's just better for consumers, better for developers, better for all of us.
Yeah, I'm same there with being a junkie for all these things, and it's hard not to just agree with everybody and just want to try everything along with everybody. It's sometimes a challenge to get critical with some of these things. So to keep things moving along and in line with Oculus, we have Palmer Luckey. I think we're going to be the best for a long time. And this was posted by Retroid64. And there's a comment by Sorasan. And he says from the article, I could be wrong, and I think that there's going to be give and take, but very few companies stay ahead of the whole time, especially when you work in product generations that are longer than a year or two. And he goes on to say that Palmer mentions that the mobile phone industry is an odd example where companies are going through an upgrade cycle of less than a year. Instead, Luckey predicts that VR will go through cycles similar to more reasonable industries, with the competition perhaps making gradual leaps over longer periods of time. Sounds like CV1 and CV2 will be at least a year apart, or more likely 18 months to 3 years. Good for devs and strong software integration? What do you guys think? Jake?
It's really hard to say, because there's so many companies that want a piece of this pie. So, they do have the best minds in the company, and they've taken on Michael Abrash and John Carmack, who have they've pioneered computer graphics. Well, Carmack's pioneered computer graphics, Abrash operating systems. So they've got a lot of strong things, but at the same time, I think there'll be a lot of competition, and that'll only push it forward faster.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about you, DeepRifter?
Like Jake was saying, I mean, they look at the crew they've got there. They are going to be the best for a long time. Awesome crew, and I'm kind of interested to see as the company develops what kind of side projects start happening, what else they start working on as time goes on. I think they're going to start branching out in some interesting directions. That's my take on it.
You mean like input devices or something even more down the rabbit hole?
Input devices, input devices, software solutions. Lord knows what they're going to do with the multi-user space. I mean, that in itself is going to have some very interesting avenues in which they're going to tread down.
Sure. I mean, just the fact that they talk about that they are actively building cyberspace or metaverse or some form of that it's just amazing to hear things like that. We love it. Flake, your thoughts?
I mean, on the whole idea of Oculus supremacy, I mean, it's definitely not guaranteed, but I think that they're so well positioned right now with, like I said before, the team that they've amassed is absolutely just ridiculous team, to say the least. So, if anybody can do it, and of course it doesn't hurt having the bankroll that they have behind them. So, I mean, at this point, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be them. But, in 3 years from now, the entire, concept, it could all change.
But it'd be hard to argue what we think, I mean, because we're big fans that, Oculus we think is going to be the best. But it is still, could be up in the air, but they certainly are making some amazing moves. Any thoughts on this topic?
I think in terms of HMD supremacy, it's going to be Oculus and maybe Sony for a good long while, which in the tech world means, a few years, maybe more.
Right. So one more comment that I have here on the story is from Everyday VR. Says, I'm hoping for something more like console generations in a cycle like that. Most consoles don't really hit their stride and put out their best titles that really exploit the system until a couple years after they come out. We want Oculus investing more of their time in great content and less in shipping incremental new hardware. It's also good for consumers who don't have to upgrade all the time. And when he means console generations, he's talking 3 to 4 years, not like these later 8-year kind of cycles that we've been seeing. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I think he's got a good point there. We need to see the software development keep up with the hardware. It's just the way it is. We're going to see the really awesome. Well, we're going to have some good launch titles. I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes we're not aware of, but then we're going to see another wave come about a year into this where there's going to be some awesome stuff coming down the pike. Every time we upgrade, we see the cycle with the consoles right now.
If I may, I think it's all about supporting developers. At the end of the day, especially at this juncture, it's about supporting developers. It'd be nice to see Oculus step up, really, really support developers, help them, back them. I mean, at this stage, there's so many indie developers, that need some love and attention. And, it'll be nice when we start seeing, CV1, CV2 sell in the millions. But until then, you're not going to have the big shops producing titles. So we need, to help push it along and to keep the interest going and to keep sales going of these HMDs. Oculus needs to start, helping developers and backing them and investing in them.
And I think that is actually happening. Maybe we're just not hearing about it, and maybe just people need to, ask. And E, you being our developer on the panel tonight, maybe you could speak, or maybe you can't speak to, any help from Oculus, or just, encouragement, or what's your experience?
Well, I have signed an NDA, so there are things that I can't talk about. But I've spoken to other developers about this a fair amount, and I've heard some stories going both ways, good stories and bad. But my personal experience has been excellent. Like, I've gotten a lot of attention and support from their dev relations people, and they've been talking to me. And I think I was pretty lucky because of I started out with the VR Jam, and so part of the prize package for that was that I got to go visit Oculus and meet several of these people in person and sort of found those relationships, I guess. But it's only been a good experience for me so far.
And let's move on. I wanted to talk to Flake for a second. Flake, aka Virtual Guinea Pig. Tell us about yourself a little bit and how you got involved in VR.
Well, I'm Flake. I'm from Calgary, Canada, and I'm a good buddy of Kane's, and he ordered the DK1 and blew my mind. And after that, it was sort of done. He started developing, as you know, some horror genre demos, and I started checking them out. And then it was, well, let's just do a quick playthrough. And before you know it, we just kind of ran with it, and it's been just absolutely a blast.
How did you get involved with RiffMax Theater?
Well, as you know, Kane's involved in RiffMax, and it was just, we both, were super excited about it, and I've been just watching, obviously Mike's development and Kane's involvement and the changes that have been going on, and I was just lucky that they asked that I help out with some of these events from time to time, and it's been an absolute blast. And I mean, just look at this place. It's just such a compelling experience that, for me, I'm not a developer, I'm not on the team, but boy, am I a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe you were the co-host to the first virtual reality talk show with Reverend live RiffMax Live, actually. That was pretty cool. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was sort of, it kind of came out of nowhere. We were all kind of brainstorming, and before you know it, there was this idea of, having these events and actually doing this stuff. And, I mean, the RiffMax team was coming up with these ideas, and it was just, amazing. And I was lucky enough, like I said, to be asked to join. And it was really a very cool experience, and it was sort of neat from the perspective of, you kind of got to see what it's really like to put on a talk show, script it, work through the ideas, go through, bugs and different problems we had and iron them out. And I don't know, we had some great laughs, and it was a lot of fun. And, I'm sure in the future, maybe we'll do another episode or two, but it was really cool. And it felt pretty cool to be part of something that was, pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where it started for me, was seeing that show and remembering back in Minecraft world where we were doing a roundtable kind of prototyping, a VR social situation there. And I even remember thinking, oh, let's do a Tonight Show kind of show in Minecraft, and we'll build that in Minecraft. But again, all these things were not compelling in Minecraft, but those ideas were there. So when I heard of the first VR talk show, was totally interested and expressed that, and that's kind of how I got connected with RiffMax here. So we have a similar love for this. One final question: what are your future goals for your YouTube channel?
I kind of take it day by day, but it's more of, I do it out of love, and I just want to be producing good content, having fun doing it, getting the word out, and hopefully growing the channel. I feel like, we're all supporting each other, and the love has definitely been shown. I never expected to have, almost 1,000 subscribers. I mean, it's just, for a lot of these big Let's Players, I mean, those numbers are nothing, but, we're just focusing on VR and brand new, and it's just very cool to have anybody pay attention. And like I said, for me, my motivation is all support the developers, because if I can get the word out about what developers are doing, they're going to produce more and do more, and people are going to back more. We're going to have more content, and that's where I'm coming from.
Great, and let's move on to the next story. Virtuix Omni further delayed. So VR hardware Kickstarters are being delayed. First it was STEM, then we saw Pre-OVR, and now Omni. What do you guys think of this? I've got an awesome comment from DocOck here, but I'd like to just throw this out to you guys before I read that. And let's start with Flake.
Well, it fills me with a lot of sadness, to be honest. I mean, I'm hungry was hungry for STEM, and then VR Pre-VR coming onto the scene. Super stoked about that. It's not surprising. This is tough stuff. I mean, and like he was saying, like, I mean, these are things that are lagging behind by decades. And at a certain point, we have to be patient, hope for the best, and just know and trust that it is going to happen. Not tomorrow, not in a year, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Well, I work with robots a lot, as you'll find out later. And I know that working with them, every time you make a prediction, the prediction gets set back by at least 100%, pretty much. So I'm doing research with robots, so I don't have to produce a product, so it's different. But I understand why it's taking so long. But yeah, you just have to trust that it will get there, and that it will be much better for having waited.
Yeah, it's definitely quality, matters a lot. And these things are toys for a lot of us, and it's not like we need the toy 3 months earlier. I mean, shouldn't be thought of as the gaming industry, and we need everything, for the launch of the next Call of Duty. I'm certainly patient, but I really was, I've backed so many of these, decent hardware projects that I'm just chomping at the bit to get some of them to play with. Just one of them would have been cool now, and it looks like, all three of them, at least those are three that I backed, are going to be delayed. DeepRifter, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not a real tech guy, but when I saw the time frames that some of these Kickstarters were talking about, I was like, how in the hell are they going to make, that just seemed awfully quick to me, that they were going to pull out this amazing stuff in such a short time period. So I guess I'm not surprised, and I'm like Jake, I say release it when it's ready to be released. We don't want anything less.
Exactly. E, how about your thoughts?
I kind of agree with that sentiment. Take your time and try to get it to the quality that it needs to be. As I said, I think I'm cooler on motion controls than most enthusiasts. I think it remains to be seen whether they're going to be able to reach like that really satisfying level of quality. If they can, then I think they need to wait and actually reach that level. If they can't, if it's just going to be kind of an interesting toy, then I think it matters less, and maybe it wouldn't hurt to get it out sooner and sort of let people enjoy it for what it is.
That's interesting. Something like the control, like STEM controllers, definitely needs to be fine-tuned, but I could see something like a gun controller, maybe that they could get that out a little faster. That's not going to be quite as intricate and necessary. Flake, were you chiming in?
Well, and who doesn't like toys. I mean, seriously? I mean, give me some
Right.
effing toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not really Toys R Us, but I'm sure these things will be in Toys R Us in many years when this stuff, is out there like all the consoles. But yeah, I want some toys too. I want to suit up and then get inside RiffMax here and have a lot more control over this body that you see. DeepRifter.
Oh no, I was just cheering for you, man. I agree.
Right on. All right, so Doc Ock, he made a few comments here, or a lengthy comment, and I'm just going to read through that. It says, if the company running the Kickstarter has never previously manufactured hardware, its estimated ship date will be wrong. The more complex the device, the more wrong the ship date estimate is likely to be. If Kickstarter feedback or stretch goals prompt changes or enhancements to the device, at a minimum of 1 to 2 quarters to the expected ship date. If the company hasn't yet proudly shown photos or video of the finalized prototype, the product will not be in your hands for at least 1 full quarter, regardless of what the company says. If videos look suspiciously like the device has problems, then the device has problems. If the creator isn't letting anyone or everyone try the prototype, it doesn't work very well. If the creator isn't posting production and shipping updates and isn't answering Kickstarter questions about production and shipping, it's not because they are too busy, it's because they know you won't like the honest answer. And a couple more. Note that I say all of this as someone who backed the Omni on Kickstarter. I've met Jan. I like Jan, but I'm pretty sure that 6 or actually 7 of the above all apply to the Omni. Does anybody have any thoughts on Doc Ock's thoughts there? I'm sure we all sort of basically agree, but anybody want to expound?
I think a little bit of cynicism can be healthy, but that's what it is. It's kind of cynicism. And the Omni has been demoing to its credit, like at GDC and other trade shows. I do think that one interesting look at that comment that Doc Ock left is that the original Oculus Rift in its Kickstarter passed just about all of those tests, and I think that's why. That's one reason why everyone was so excited about it, because it seemed like this might actually be the real deal instead of a bundle of promises. And I'd argue that it was, even though the Rift itself was delayed.
That's excellent. I didn't know that, and that's a great point. All right, just find I'm placing my notes here. And we had a little bit of a crash before. DeepRifter, did we go through and introduce you, or not yet?
Yeah, I'm DeepRifter. I'm from the Salt Lake City area, Utah. And my background is actually psychology, which a little twist of anthropology as well. So my interest in VR, besides the experience itself, is the impact it's going to have on individuals, social, on a small scale and a large scale. It's going to be such an interesting journey on all levels.
I like how you put that. It is going to be this journey, and that's definitely how I look at it. It's the user experience and the sort of actual experience you get out of this. That's, what I am digging so much. Also, and I don't know how to pronounce from Kite and Lightning, who Akrima, is that his name? He was going to be on the show tonight and couldn't make it because he couldn't. Akrima, okay. And so you're filling in for him tonight, and I really appreciate the last minute notice that we could get you on. One of the cool connections, though, is that you were at the Kite and Lightning party out in LA a couple weeks ago. Maybe you could tell us about that. You wrote into me about it, and I just was floored. So yeah, tell us about it.
Well, it was amazing. It was held at Troika Studios, and just the interior of this place, the studio it's mind-blowing. It's very artistic. I mean, walking down these halls, you've got hallways with glass with the servers behind them. It's dark. You've got green lights, red lights. They do it in a very artistic way. So even just the studio itself is mind-blowing. And so we're there, and they've got the Genesis machine, and they were up, from what I heard, all night building this thing. I mean, they looked exhausted, and it almost looks like a geodesic dome, but just the framework with a bed in the middle of it. And you lay down on the bed, and they've got the base up underneath the mattresses and everything. And when you put the Rift on your head, it's an image of the room that you're in the contraption that you're in. So for a second there, I was like, wait, do I have the Rift on? Yeah, I've got the Rift on. Whoa, I'm seeing what I was seeing before I put the Rift on. So it already almost immediately gives you the presence, and then they crank it. The soundtrack is amazing. It's almost the closest I can explain it. It's like an astral projection, and you're going through this dream landscape, and there's a female guide that's guiding you through this landscape, and just mind blowing. And so many people there. It was their first time doing VR. And where this machine was set up, there was this big glass window. You could see it looked like a big science experiment going on, and you could see the people strapped in there. And people in the line were, getting kind of nervous watching the reactions of these people in there. So I felt it was part of my task to just calm people down. Hey guys, it's going to be all right. It's VR, explaining what VR is and all of that. So that was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. Any other guests have any questions about this party, actually? I mean, as you're hearing that.
Well, was it an interactive experience or just like a movie style thing?
It was passive, and I finally got my opportunity to play with the HD Rift as well, and they did their opera experience on that. And that made my night, really. That was my highlight of the night. It was like, oh, wipe the tear from my eye. That was just beautiful.
Maybe it all happened in the Rift. Who would know? That's very cool. Okay, so let's talk about Hollywood bound to jump on board the VR train. This was posted by Superior Vision. The article was by Variety.com. And legend has it that during the first manned balloon flight in 1783, someone remarked, "What good is it?" Benjamin Franklin, standing nearby, offered the famous quote, "What good is a newborn baby?" It's a new form of entertainment. I think that's very exciting, says John Landau, Cameron's longtime producing partner. I use the term discovery. It's a medium where the participant is going on a path of discovery that is of their own choosing. So this makes me think of just the motion picture history. Actually, if you look at the very beginning of motion pictures, people didn't really know what to do with it then. It was really until they came up with the idea of editing. When it first started, nobody knew that you could cut to different places and that the human mind would follow it and there'd be a story. So I think that's really interesting and interesting to talk about, film and whatnot. I'm going to bounce this to Flake. What are your thoughts on, film and VR?
Well, it's certainly a natural progression, and really at the end of the day, I mean, even the experience that we're having right now, I mean, a lot of it is all about multimedia, and we all want to have these experiences, and I think that it's just bound to go that way. And of course, right now, this is extremely a hot topic. The Facebook acquisition, Palmer being young, and all of this story, this hype behind it. So it's a natural progression. I mean, what ends up happening, where it actually goes, who knows? But absolutely no surprise.
And Jake, what are your thoughts?
Well, the more money going into VR, the happier I am, personally. But I heard in a talk, I think it was the Los Angeles VR meetup, somebody gave a keynote there, and they said that, quite poignantly, that VR is the ultimate platform because it lets you perfectly empathize with whoever wants you to empathize with them. You can be anybody, and they can show you exactly what it's like to be them. And I think movies, they try to do that, and so it's an obvious progression.
And before I get E's comment, let me read a little more from the article. It says, according to the source within 20th Century Fox, the company is exploring VR marketing and supplemental content for its Night at the Museum and Maze Runner franchises, and the Fox Searchlight Reese Witherspoon starred Wild. And also, VR is clearly a fit for Fox's futuristic or fantasy franchises like X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Avatar. And somebody, Disaffect, commented, how did I miss this news that Fox was working on VR stuff? Great article. Actually had some info that and obsessed enthusiasts didn't already know. So, did anybody, E, what are your thoughts on the film in VR, and did you know that Fox was working on stuff like this?
I had no idea about that, and it's actually kind of surprising to me if they're jumping into it, feet first. In terms of film and VR in general, I'm coming to this as a game developer, and that's the medium that excites me, to begin with. And maybe it's just because of that, and I'm biased, but I feel like games have a lot more potential in VR early on than film do. There are a lot of unsolved problems in film, and I think you're right. It's sort of like, not knowing how to edit. Um, you know, they 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 need a lot more time, I think, to sort of work that out technically, but just as importantly, directorially.
Any other thoughts on Hollywood film movies?
Well, I'm wondering if maybe the way to go with this isn't the traditional, shots with a camera, but creating a 3D space, like this, that's high detail, and put the actors in motion camera, in the 3D space rather than the traditional film format. And I guess I kind of got a taste of that when I was out at Kite and Lightning doing the opera and whatnot. That felt like more of a movie type experience to me with those live actors there. Than the other stuff I've seen in the Rift doing the surround movies. That's my opinion.
So, more like a stage where there's performers. And
Yeah.
that certainly, yeah, that's up my alley. I mean, that's what I think is very interesting about having the hide your hands pre-OVR suit. I think I want to see this stuff powered by people, not so much powered by AI that has to be programmed to seem lifelike. I think people want to do things, and let's all put people to work. And I think they'd want to collaborate inside of VR in kind of that simulated environment.
Dude, imagine having those traditional party, the murder mystery party experience where you've got all the props, you're totally in character. That would be cool.
I imagine RiffMax would love to do. I just blanked on it. Rocky Horror Picture Show. That would be ultimate, right?
Well, in fact, I know that there's been talks by the RiffMax team before about putting on, things like plays and being able to, play even multiple characters and play it back and be able to loop yourself back in and, become a part and maybe, see something that's pre-recorded and then give it your own twist and collaborate and, build. I think the sky's the limit. It's going to be really, really cool, and I know these guys are definitely, it's on their minds.
Absolutely. Other thoughts?
Well, it's
Sounds like a
interesting. This goes into the realm of psychology as well. Role playing when you're doing your craft with clients. Being able to actually role play scenarios, be in the scenario, and work through those things. Awesome stuff.
So, next thing I want to do is go into asking Jake in the margin all about himself, about the research that you're doing. Go ahead and introduce yourself and anything you want to talk about.
I'm 22 years old. I live in Newcastle, Australia, and last year I finished my undergrad degree in mathematics and physics, and I majored in pure maths and theoretical physics, quantum mechanics mainly, and I sort of looked around at the research that was going on, and nothing in our university really interested me. So I went over to the computer science department and started talking to them, and I ended up joining the university's RoboCup team. So RoboCup is an international robot soccer competition. So we program humanoid robots. They're about yay high. And they play soccer autonomously. And I'm actually sitting in the lab right now with a small soccer field behind me. So this year we're going to Brazil for that.
Cool.
Super cool.
So the robots there were playing autonomous soccer, and we programmed them to do that. But once you put them on the ground, they start up, and then you can't touch them for the entire game unless they break down. So that was our qualification video. We have to send that video to the RoboCup committee every year to prove that we have the skills to actually compete. And this year we were accepted, and we're going to Brazil. So how that relates to VR is I'm working on robotics problems, and then I ordered my DK2 last year. I didn't kickstart it. I pre-ordered like shortly before all the shipping happened, or started happening, and I fell in love with VR at that point. And when I started looking at how everything works, it turns out all the maths and all the techniques in robotics and VR, they transfer really well. So now I'm doing research in VR, looking at eye tracking using electrooculography, which is measuring the potential across the eye. And I'm hoping to go into a PhD doing something with haptics. So hopefully, my dream is to build an exoskeleton, which is pretty far-fetched, but it's still an interesting research topic.
Very interesting. And what have you learned from the Oculus community and the VR demos that have come out over the past year? Do you have any favorites?
What I've learned is that presence is incredibly powerful, and that's what makes it so interesting. And I have to honestly say my favorite demo is the RiffMax Theater, because it's giving me a glimpse into the social aspect of it.
Right, right. Well, you only find fans here, so excellent.
Yeah.
All right, another topic I wanted to run past you guys is what do you think about Let's Players on YouTube and Twitch and all this VR streaming stuff? This is all good stuff, right? Like you stream a lot of stuff on YouTube. What do you think about this stuff? I'm sure you're like the more the merrier, right?
Absolutely. I love content, and I love really good, people that spend the time and put in the time to create really good content. But for me, it's all great. I mean, I'm just having fun, and it's all about embracing, supporting developers, and just spreading the VR love, and that's at least where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any kind of reason why the Let's Play isn't good for VR? I really can't imagine, but I'm curious.
Not, I mean, from my perspective, absolutely not. I think that like I said, the more exposure, the better. And especially, I mean, we have to keep in mind that despite all the news, the majority of people you meet day to day have never heard of an Oculus. So it's just the fact, and the more that we can, get the word out about how amazing this experience is, the better. And the more we support our developers, the better. And that's been my position all along.
That makes me think of a potential like issue is a lot of times we'll stream in Rift View and two screens seeing both eye holes, and that could maybe be off-putting to somebody that's new. They wouldn't like that. They don't understand why that is, and also then that just brings a question of you really can't understand these things, right, unless you've experienced them. So those are a couple thoughts that come to my mind. Anybody have thoughts on this?
Well, it was definitely my introduction into VR. Watching Cymatic Bruce. That's what got me into this. I've always been a VR aficionado, but watching Bruce with this new technology, that's what sold me on it and made me order my first DK1. I think there's a lot of people just waiting for CV1 because of these videos out there.
I guess that's the
Good
point.
point.
You can't really understand what it's like, so you need a proxy there, and the YouTube community kind of plays that role, telling you how good it is.
Good answers. All right, we're going to be wrapping up things here in a moment. I do want to ask the audience if they would like to ask any questions. That there's two microphones on each side of the room, and while people are lining up for that, I wanted to ask Kane if he could read out the Hitbox results. Would you buy a Samsung HMD?
Yeah, kind of surprising. We had 54% say no. Close second was at 25%, and then yes at 20%.
Huh.
Yeah, Huh's a good answer.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And on my left here, we have somebody that would like to ask a question. Could you state your name and your question?
Oh, this is Von Felty. And it's like a
Von
comment
Felty.
and a question. It's more towards Z because I really love the Darknet demo. And I was wondering, I noticed you don't have a Kickstarter like Technolust. And so I was wondering, how is money affecting your development? Do you have any secret backers, or how do you how are you working on your game? Because I think you're doing it out of your own love for it.
Yeah, I have sort of two secrets to my style of development. One of them is make a really cheap game. So, Darknet is in part designed to be something that's very easy, for someone like me to develop. It doesn't require a whole lot of, 3D art or, assets or anything like that. It's simple enough, hopefully, that, I as one programmer can finish the whole thing, etc. And the other part of it is I had saved up some money beforehand. So, I mentioned I went indie about a year and a half ago. When I did that, I did so with savings that would last me about 3 years of living very cheaply. And the idea there is, then I can sort of go take on these crazy projects like Darknet. They're sort of, risky projects for risky platforms. So yeah, I need the time, I think, more than I need any extra money. And so Kickstarter, I wouldn't be comfortable asking people for that money, and I don't think I ultimately need it.
Thanks.
Great question. So you're proactive. You actually, saved your money up. Smart.
Well, I was very lucky, to be able to do so for a bunch of reasons. But yeah, that was a good path for me to take.
And I don't see anybody else lined up for questions, so I think that's basically going to wrap things up. Guest, do you have anything to plug specifically? You want to point anybody, even if it's not your own project, point somebody somewhere?
I want to just give a lot of people some awesome experiences on the Rift. I've just been having a blast having VR parties at my house, introducing people that haven't tried it yet, getting the word out there, getting the local communities in your area excited about VR. Love it, man.
Spread the word.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't plug Darknet. So darknetgame.com, and there's a link to my dedicated subreddit. So if you came here from our Oculus, you should check out the Reddit link on my website, on Darknet's website. And yeah, subscribe, and that's where I'll post all my stuff.
Excellent. Flake, Jake?
Well, again, I would be remiss if I didn't plug the Virtual Reality Guinea Pig on YouTube, where you will find Let's Play, and also everything RiffMax, the Virtually Incorrect, this show, karaoke, everything's going on. Check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Show your love.
Please do, folks. It really does help, and we want to keep this going and keep bringing good content. So, and also reach out to me if you're interested in being a guest or in the audience. Reddit or Twitter at Gunter444. And that's it. See you next time on Virtually Incorrect. It's been a pleasure being your host tonight. Thanks to all my guests, audience members, the RiffMax crew, the authors and commenters of the stories presented, and finally to the whole damn VR community. You guys rock.